Let me tell you, before I introduce the topic, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, part of this festival. Super nice. So, apologies for my voice. I'm sick, but I have all my energy, even I'm sick. So I hope you enjoy this seminar. Let me tell you a little bit about me. Some of you already know me. They are in the top. My name is Agustina Cattaneo. They call me Agus. Well, I force people to call me Agus because I don't like my full name. I am an accountant. That's my first degree. I'm an accountant. I work as an accountant few years at Deloitte & Touche. You may know it is an auditing studio from England. And so I am a business person, but I was back then just only a business person. And then I work in Repsol YPF, that is a petroleum company from Spain, a fusion between a Spanish and Argentinian. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. So I was working as an accountant when I had a important car accident that made, I was left bedridden, and that was a change in the compass of my life. So when I was in bed, I started my fashion company, and that's why I am now a fashion designer. From being an accountant, I was left in bed, just moving only my arms, and I started sewing and doing embroideries, and I launched my fashion company from bed when I was 24. So then when I was 22, I had my fashion company in Argentina from 22 to 24. And when I was 24, I decided to actually study fashion because I just became a fashion designer, but I never studied. So I moved to New York. I studied fashion design in Parsons, and then I did an MBA, a master's in global fashion management at Institut Français de la Mode, FIT, and Hong Kong Polytechnic. It's a program within the 3 universities. I live in New York 7 years. And then I moved back to Argentina in 2012 because they called me to be the trend coordinator of a department store called Falabella. If someone is from South America, it's very big in Chile, Colombia, Peru, and Argentina. So I was the trend coordinator. I used to detect trends, look specifically at the fashion shows in the main capitals, and then come to Europe, to Paris, to London, to Milano, to Barcelona, to different Copenhagen, the so-called, and New York, and detect more trends. And with those trends, I used to create trend reports. As I am an accountant, that's why I told you, and I'm a fashion designer, it was a very interesting job because I used to work with the buyers that are usually accountants or business persons and the designers. So it was a very interesting for my left, right, and for both of my bachelors to interact with the buyers that are building collections, just being on a P&L and on a budget, and they're just looking at spreadsheets, and then working with the designers that they don't care about numbers, and they're all about what is trendy and the lace and the embroidery. So it was an interesting job to make sure these both teams understand each other and they build collections that are gonna be you can sell it easy, and also the department store, it was like a mid to lower tier department store, so it's even harder, you have to find the right fabric to accomplish, the right target price. And so I did that, and then for 2.5 years I was in Falabella, and then I decided to go on my own. Right now I'm a professor. I've been teaching for more than 9 years. I teach in many universities, FIT in New York, IFA here, Parsons in Dominican Republic, Polimoda in Florence, many universities. I love teaching. Then I'm also a consultant. I do business consultancy or fashion design consultancy. But here today, I am here to share what I do in Fashion Week. I travel to the main fashion weeks, the most popular, New York, London, Milan, and Paris, and I just cover street style. I do some fashion shows, but the core of my business is to stay outside and look at what people are wearing, and with that, detect trends. So it's kind of the same job that I had at Falabella, but instead of traveling and looking at windows and buying clothes, I'm looking at people and what are they wearing and detecting what's happening and why are they wearing that, and making liaisons between one season and the other one. Yep. So basically, that's kind of me, and I'm based in Paris since October, and I'm very happy to be here. Okay, you can, one thing, if we are very few, we're not that many, so I'm very informal. I'm gonna speak if at any point, if something is not clear, don't hesitate to raise your hand, and we keep it from there. We start? It's hot. this seminar is Street Style is the New Runway. So, let me see if I'm going to try to shout. I can't use a microphone. If you don't hear, Chris, do you hear me there? Yeah? So I'm going to shout because I need to move. So, we call this seminar the Street Style is the New Runway. Yeah? So I'd like to start with some introduction about the street. Do you hear me? So the street, I say that the street is one of the sources for inspiration. So I want to cover different sources of inspiration, being the street one of them. So these are the tools to observe the world and detect trends. So this is the toolkit. Is this working? This is the toolkit for inspiration. So these are the tools that I want to cover today, and as you can see, street is one of the tools. So in the end, I'm going to cover exactly what I do in street style today. So we can get inspiration from any of these sources. Newspapers and magazines, blogs, movies, museums, seminars and conferences, runways, fashion forecasting companies, street, that today is the king, events, trade shows, and so let's start with the beginning. The first source of inspiration that I want to touch on is magazines and newspapers. So some of you might come from the industry, might already work in the industry, some of you may be students. This is a source of inspiration that you may know. And if you don't know it, you have to know it, and I recommend you to register. It's called Women Wear Daily. It's the most important newspaper, it's American, and the interesting thing about Women Wear Daily is that it covers the industry across the board. So you can see what's happening in terms of business in the industry and in terms of trends, in terms of fashion. So they analyze the runway and what is in trend and what is not in trend, but also which company merged with which company and which stock went down and which designer became the new designer. So it's a whole, it's across the board, and it's from eyewear, from beauty, from shoes. So it's a very interesting source because you working in fashion or studying fashion, you need to be aware of what's going on in this gigantic and billionaire industry. So it's not just about like, what is in trend and what is not in trend. Also be aware of what's happening. Then in terms of magazine, I always recommend to go to magazine shop and understand what's the magazine that you would like, you know, to register, to subscribe to. There are many magazines out there. Each magazine has its own profile. That's why we're so many in Fashion Week. That's why we're so many in Fashion Week working out there, and we're taking pictures of different things because there is one photographer that works for Glamour, and then I work for my own, and I work for the most important, I forgot to say that, I have a column in La Nación that is the most important newspaper in Argentina. So I may take pictures that are interesting for La Nación, but then another person takes picture for Glamour that is completely different. Or maybe my newspaper is weekly and a magazine is monthly. So in terms of magazines, we have a lot of magazines out there. So I recommend you to go to a magazine place. There is one great on Rue de Rivoli and Cambon. So check what magazines you like in terms of work, or what magazines are interesting for you to publish your work if you have a fashion company. So each magazine has its own point of view. It's not the same Elle or Harper's Bazaar that are more commercial, or Vogue, than Interview, than ID, than Numero, than Nylon. Nylon is targeting millennials, targeting Gen Z. Then Elle may be targeting baby boomers or Gen X. So you have to understand that. So magazines are a great source for inspiration. And then we have specific magazines that I love in terms of analysis of the collections. When I used to work at Falabella, these were my main sources, yeah, Collezioni, L'Officiel, because they have a big, interesting analysis of the collection. So then you can see also Vogue.com or Catwalk, you know, but these are interesting. And then in Snap, you might not know it, and it's very interesting. I just found that magazine a few years ago back in New York. There is a very nice place for magazine. It's called Around the World in New York in the fashion district. It's amazing. And I found it. In Snap is exactly what I do, street style. These two, they analyze the runway. In Snap is only street style. And it's interesting. Very few text. For us that we work in fashion, we're visual people. We don't need a lot of words. It's more images. So in Snap, it's completely visual. Another source of information, of inspiration today, of course, the blogs. There are millions of blogs out there. I just put some blogs here, and the different categories. Yes, I put just when they started, so the Coolhunter started the blog in 2004. Why I think this blog is very interesting, because it doesn't cover just the fashion industry. So by browsing this blog, you can get a great overview of what's happening in terms of architecture, what's happening in terms of art, in terms of music, hotel, hospitality industry. So it's great, it's a great source of inspiration. And I always say, like, it's good because in one platform, in one place, you have like a summary of what's going on when you have these type of blogs that are more like lifestyle blogs. Are you following me? I shout. So this is the founder, Bill Ticos. Then we have another one, the sartorialist. And we will see more about him when we start talking about the street, that was Scott Schumann, and he started the blog in 2005. Again, what I like about blogs, what I'm fascinated, that everyone can have a word. So he's raising the question, which one do you like best? You know, which one is better for you, this plate or this plate? Or who do you think should be the designer, you know, the next designer for Marc Jacobs? This was back in the day, yes, with the problem was Galliano in Dior, in Dior, with the problem of Galliano. So bloggers can have a voice. So it's a very, I'm not saying anything that you don't know, I'm just introducing you some platforms. Another blog, very interesting, is Shaded View on Fashion Film. The blogger is called, well, the founder of the blog is called Diane Pernet, and the main focus, you may have seen her, now we are in Paris, so she's always here in Paris on all the fashion weeks. So the main focus of these blogs are fashion films, and this is a very important category that I have it as one of the other sources of inspiration that we cover today. Another blog, Style Bubble, this is one of the 2006, Susie Bubble, this is one of the bloggers that I always shoot that are outside the shows, yes? Showing the collections, just attending the shows so we can take pictures of them. And this is another blogger, Street Peeper, but he's behind the scene. He's doing mainly what I do, taking pictures. So we have the in front of the camera and the behind of the camera scene, and we will see that later on. So Susie Babel is one of the in front of the camera, yes? She's been given clothes by different designers so she can attend the show, and then all the Street Peeper people like me, we're there to take pictures. This is him, Phil O. He has a very particular way of shooting. If you ever come to Fashion Week, he doesn't look through the lens, he shoots from here. So, Anne Sorel, another blogger, that she changed the blog a few months ago to Atelier Dorel. And she has a book, very interesting book, Love, Style, and Life. It's kind of cute, the book, I like it. We don't see her that much in Fashion Week. She's kind of doing other things and now based in LA. Blue.com, another blogger that we see a lot in Fashion Week. Me personally, I love taking pictures of her. I don't think her blog is as famous as she is. When I show you Gala Gonzalez, you may know her, but maybe you didn't know Blue.com. And then this is one of our most important sources of inspiration, of information, I guess, is the business of fashion. I think this was a great startup. And of course, Imran Ahmed is a business person, former study from Harvard, so he did something great. When I recommend you to read Women Wear Daily, I also recommend you to read this. Also, across the board, if you're some students, you have a career section, you have a business section, you have a fashion week, you have street style. So it really covers the industry across the board. And for me, that's important. That's why I start by introducing myself, because I think it's important for you to understand that I'm an accountant and a fashion designer. So every time that, even though I try to believe that I'm more a designer than an accountant, there is a business sense, because we work in a pecuniary industry. So we need to understand the impact. Song of Style, another of the bloggers that we see a lot in Fashion Week, based in California, Amy Song. And then last but not least, Advanced Style, another blog that to me is very interesting because he decided to start his blog based on his grandmother.
Ableness and sin, and I don't want that alone.
Up late at night all alone, can't you see I'm trying?
Lately, I've been so hungry for color.
Anyways, you can look it up later, but I think it's very interesting to see a blog that is targeting this audience. Because it's so common to see bloggers that are targeting Gen Z, that are targeting millennials, that are targeting all in their 20s. And he was like, you know what? Let me talk to my grandmother and her friends. And of course, they're based all in New York, so it's a lot of fun. If you watch this movie, Advanced Style, it's super interesting. How they talk about style, how they talk about their generation, how they talk about how they feel ignored because no one is talking to them, but they have, the purchase power and the time to go to the shops. So why no one? Sorry?
An amazing style.
An amazing style, and no one is speaking to them. Apparently, we see so many bloggers talking to millennials. So this is, I really like that. The Blonde Salad, you all know her, 2009. I can't believe she started in 2009 and she built this empire that we didn't see a Harvard case study based on her. Chiara Ferragni, you may like her or you may not like her, but she did it. She made it. She did something important. And we see her a lot in street style when we're shooting street style. Shine by 3, I think it's the same case than Amlul. I think she's more famous, Margaret, than her blog, Margaret Sang. We see her a lot during Fashion Week. So all these people are the ones that they all come together in February and in September in New York, and we all travel the 4 cities all together. Annalena Russo, of course you know her from Vogue. Man Repeller, in my personal opinion, I think she's great. She has a great sense of humor. She's ironic. For me, personal opinion, she's very smart. We Were What? From the US also, Danielle Bernstein. And we can go on with the list, on and on and on. These are just some examples of blogs to understand that blogs are a great source of inspiration. One platform that I would recommend you to have an application is Blog Labbing. So it's very interesting because you can combine all the blogs that you follow in one application. And they have the Blog Labbing Award in New York, always in September during Fashion Week. So it's a very interesting way to have everything in one place. Because if not, you have to open so many blogs. Apart from bloggers, of course, we have the vloggers. So Michelle Phan is very famous. She disappeared and now she came back. She does a lot of tutorials into how to wear your makeup. Yep. And then one thing that I think is very interesting about blogs is that we can access information that in general is super expensive. For example, WGSN, you may know it is a fashion forecasting company, and it's super expensive as a person. Yes, if you're a company, you can afford to have access to this service. But if you're just one person working alone, you may not be able to pay the fee. So they have a blog. So of course they're not going to publish in the blog the same information that they have in their website, but at least you can know what they're talking about. So I think it's interesting. What are they talking? They're posting that one is the main color. Of course you're not going to have all the Pantones that they're talking about in their website, but at least you have 2 hints. You have an idea of the conversation. You have an idea of what are they talking about. Big shoes, huge necklaces. So take advantage of the era that we live now that is fantastic, that we have access to information. And I always say that to my students when I'm traveling in Fashion Week. I'm like, follow me, because through me, follow me and follow everybody that we're there. Through us, you can be in Fashion Week, and I think that's fantastic. Even now, Barcelona Fashion Week, I'm not in Barcelona, but you can see it through people that are there. Or in August, Copenhagen Fashion Week. I don't cover Copenhagen, but I can see it through my friends that are there. And it's fantastic. The same with the shows. Some of us get into the shows, so when we are in the shows, we stream live, so the people outside can see when the show is about to end, so you have to, drink fast your coffee and go back to the street. Are we fine? Movies, another source of information and inspiration that to me is very important. Just to name two important movies that are really inspiring in terms of wardrobe to me. 8.5 of Fellini and Midnight in Paris. Midnight in Paris is a little bit more commercial, but for me it was a great inspiration. But in terms of movies, to me the main thing today as a source of inspiration are fashion films. I give a seminar in many fashion film festivals around the world, and I have these categories. These are my categories for fashion films. Every time they ask me, what should I do? How can I make a fashion film? I say, you have 10 routes that you can take. I'm not going to go through this because it's not the subject. I just wanted to tell you that I have 10 routes. And how did I do these categories? I went from the most tangible fashion films that are moving lookbooks to the most intangible. What do I mean by that? The most tangible fashion films are the ones that is like a moving lookbook. You see the product. There is not much of a story, like this Gucci one.
No, I won't. No, I won't. No, I won't. I won't let you move that way. 'Cause I don't. No, I don't. I don't let you move that way. No, I won't. No, I won't. I won't stand here whilst you sway. No, I don't anymore.
Yes, so there is kind of a story, but really the story is nothing. It's all about showcasing products. Like she falls, and all the scarves and the shoes and the socks are falling. So it's basically, to me, I call it a moving lookbook. So then I go down, 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 like you go to an iconic product, you go to showing your collection in a more conceptual way, blah, 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 until you get to the 10th. That is when you actually don't see the clothes. You can't tell there is a fashion company behind that. And we watch a little bit of this. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
I'm sure you watch it.
Do we just do this anytime?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, take your time. We're ready.
Oh.
Can you turn off the lights? Come on.
Justin,
Elizabeth,
how are you?
nice to
Shall we
meet
make
you.
out?
Absolutely.
This here is the awkward moment.
Since you're an actress, you've done this before. And,
A little bit, a little bit.
okay,
Oh, we know.
I'll follow your lead.
We might
Maybe that isn't the best way to kiss someone, though.
So whenever.
Are you filming?
I even forgot
It's
his
actually
name.
pretty scary.
What was your name again?
Greg,
Greg.
Ingrid.
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And so we can kiss. I'm wasting my time. Adding scars to my heart. Cause all I hear is I'm not ready now.
Good to go whenever.
You have nice eyes.
Let's look at each other for a second, okay? Okay.
And I can tell that you didn't have to face your mother and losing her lover without saying goodbye. Without saying goodbye. Cause she didn't have time.
Anyways, it's a bit longer. This Ren is also a fashion company, as Gucci. But that's why I put it in the 10th. The first one is a moving lookbook. She falls, all the clothes fall down with her, and we're just looking at products. It's a tiny story. This Ren, the one that we just saw, is a fashion company. They're all dressed by Ren, but the story is more important. And to me, those are the fashion films that create more impact. Because to me, when you connect emotionally with your customer, is when you go beyond the products, that's when you have an influence in your customer. That's where you're important. That's when, if a lot of companies start doing the same products as you, they will still choose you. Because you deliver something different, because you engage with your audience, because you understand, because you have fun, because you believe that your audience are the kings, and you connect emotionally. So these, to me, the 10th are, for me, the most interesting in terms of fashion films. But, well, I have for each one. Museums, another source of inspiration. Of course, go to museums. And this, to me, what I want to say here is like, in order to predict trends and in order to understand if the 70s are coming or the 80s are coming back or grunge or folk, I need to before understand what happened. There's no way I can make a link with the 70s if I have no idea what the 70s were about. There's no way I can understand, okay, that's so grunge, that's so folk, if I have no idea. So whenever they ask me the question, like, where should I start if I want to work in trends, this is one of the points, study fashion history. You need to be able to connect the dots. So, going to museums or what? So study the past if you could define the future. Going to the museums can give you, or reading books can give you the information about fashion in terms of personalities. So you can learn of fashion history just by understanding who was Schiaparelli, who was Coco Chanel. So by asking that question, you will have a good overview of fashion history. The same with silhouettes. So by understanding what's the A-line silhouette, what's the hourglass. So by just asking that question, you might get a good overview of what's happening in the history. Let's try this guy. Okay. Or by key items. So what's the story of the denim? What's the story of the miniskirt? What's the story of the little black dress? Or decades. What was Charleston about? What was the music? How people were dancing? What were the accessories? So by understanding that, then you can connect the dots. Or then if you're working in visual merchandising and your boss tells you, can we replicate in the window the 20s? You would be like, yeah, can you explain me what is it about? No, that's not a question valid. You should know. Or what's the space age? Or what's the difference between op art and pop art? Yep. So these are just some. And one exhibit that is very important when working in fashion that I recommend you to follow, that I'm sure you all follow, is the exhibit of the Costume Institute of the Met. Yeah, we have Pan Chaos to Couture, we have the one of Charles James, we have China Through the Looking Glass, we have the technological one that was one of the last ones. So this is very important, what's happening in the Met, because then you will see, because I don't know if it's because it's in America, that it all trickles down to the market, but then you see this in the market. You see like the impact of, you're not gonna see something 3D printed maybe on a mass scale today, but you see technology getting involved in the industry. Are we okay? Another source of inspiration or information are seminars and conferences. These are just some of the conferences, and I recommend you to go. I'm very happy to be here also because of that. It's a great place to do networking, to talk, to ask questions, to see where people are putting their interest. So some conference, and not only fashion. If you work in fashion, don't just go, to fashion seminars or conferences. Like Pechacucha is a very interesting one where people have 10 minutes to share 10 slides of 1 minute each about their project, about their company. So, and about anything. It could be like I develop an application, I develop a new food, whatever. It's just about anything. But I think it's good also to be, to interact with people that are not only in fashion and to think out of the box and apply to the fashion industry things that are happening in other industries. Runway, of course, a great source of information or inspiration. The magazines that we just seen are great at analyzing the runway, but also Vogue or catwalking. For catwalking, you have to pay. And then go into fashion shows. And I always say that, and you may know it because some of you may come from the industry. If you're not invited to the show, a lot of shows have standby. So go to the place and stand and ask, where is the standby list? And if it's, of course, not to Chanel, not to Vuitton, yes, they're not going to have standby lists. But small shows, they always have standby lists. And you are helping the PR. Because if the show is about to start and the front line is empty, it can't be empty because they're recording the show. And that looks bad. And now we have a lot of drones recording the show. That looks bad. So the first thing they do is they say, hey, you from the third row, can you come? And then that row is going to be empty because these guys come to the front. So go to show, ask for standby list, and then try to see if you can sit in the front row. Then they might move you, whatever they move you. But do it, it's all about, having the PRs won't like me to say that, sit in the front row. And always have business cards. You never know in these shows who may be sitting next to you. Like a huge editor may be sitting next to you because the PR saw you and just say, hey, do you mind sitting here? We need to start the show. And then all of a sudden, huge editor is sitting next to you. And before the show starts, you are just killing time. Usually there is no reception, your phone doesn't work, so you can't even post sometimes You're just killing time. So what do you do for a living? No, where are you based? You talk. So always have a business card. That's my American side of like coming 7 years in New York. You always have a business card. Another source of inspiration, fashion forecasting companies. Most of you may know what is a fashion forecasting company. We have many fashion forecasting companies that analyze trends and predict trends, micro trends, looking at the shows, looking at the runways, and then micro trends, and then macro trends, looking more at consumer habits. So what's happening? Yes? How is the consumer changing? In what direction are we going? So these are just some companies, some based here, some based in London, some based in New York. So we have Nelly Roddy, Peclair, we have Trend Stop from Steel, Trend Council, the Donegal Group. Some, like the Donegal Group, are more, they all have websites, but some are more about the physical book. Like Peclair, I've never been in Peclair, so I can't tell, but I've seen the books of Peclair. But I've been many times in the Donegal Group, because that's where I take my students from FIT. And it's really about the book. It's not like WGSN that they don't even have a book, and it's only online. This is more about the book, so they show you, okay, you can go and you can even have a consultancy job with them and tell them, okay, this is my company, I'm targeting millennials, and my price point is this, and they give you advice into what fabric direction to take for you, and what color direction and what print, so it's very interesting. The one that I use the most is WGSN. That's my preferences, but you can use, they're all super good. I just use WGSN and I like because it covers the industry. You have ideas for product development, ideas for marketing, ideas for consumer habits. Again, micro trends and macro trends. Yeah, so what's happening now and then what's happening in a horizon of 10, 7 years, 5 years. Yeah? Then I skip the street because I'm coming back to the street. So now events. As I said before with seminars and conference, go to events. It's a great source of inspiration. I'm sure today, just by browsing around here and looking, at the designs of the technology, the fusion between technology and fashion, you have ideas. Maybe you're not going to implement those ideas now, but it's good to have your mind active, and start thinking and doing networking and again, taking out your business cards. In terms of events, I recommend, as I said with the magazines, as I say with everything, go to high-tier events and low-tier events, or mid-tier events. Not just like, I want to go to the Dior event. No. Like, everything is important, and you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what's going to trigger inspiration for you. So just don't keep it. I say this because I teach in a luxury program, MBA program, and they're all about luxury. And I'm like, okay, luxury is fantastic, but there is a lot coming from here. Mass market is also good. Every tier has its own thing. So it's not only about going to the Dior event, but it's good. So here, I'm at the Dior event that they do for the VIP clients in New York, that is super good. But then the same day, I went to the Nico Pandas presentation, that is also super good. So try to, be aware, registering websites, know what's happening. These kind of events are fantastic. And also music events. You can see a lot of inspiration there. I will share my pictures also from Coachella. So I do street style in Lollapalooza and in Coachella. And again, it's like a fashion week. Like everybody's dressed, like it is like, okay, Paris Fashion Week, but in LA. It's like the same thing. The same bloggers, the same photographers, just different thing, just more hanging out in the pool, but same thing. It's a better thing than under the snow in New York. Trade shows, and this is the last before we go to the street, is another source of inspiration. Some of you may work in trade shows or may attend to trade shows. Trade shows, if you don't know, are like big fairs, like gigantic. We have two very important here. I used to come when I was working as a trend coordinator in Falabella. I used to come to Première Vision, and the good thing of Paris is that at the same time, you have Première Vision and Text World. And the difference between Première Vision and Text World, even though they both source fabrics, is they target a different price point. So Première Vision, usually the vendors are Europeans. So you have Italian, French, English vendors. And in Text World, they're Asian. And the price point is very different. So me, as a trend coordinator of a department store, I was in charge of 12 brands. And of course, within the 12 brands, some were more expensive and some were cheaper. So for some, I could access Première Vision fabrics, and for some, the same fabric that I bought, like that little flower that is super cute, I need to buy the same fabric, but instead of 15 euros a meter, I need it for 3. I need it for 2. So that's why it's good that they both, of course, they thought about it, they both happen at the same time. So when we come, I was coming from Buenos Aires, when I come here, I can go to both trade shows. So it's interesting, so it's a gigantic place where you're walking around and you see Première Vision, you see all the trends, all the colors of the season, all the fabric directions, and then you can meet in each booth with a vendor and talk about it. And depending on how many meters you buy, we were buying a lot because we were buying for 4 countries with like 15 stores in each country. So we have a big power of negotiation. So you can be like, you know what, this print is amazing, but let me change it, let me do it like in black and white instead of grays, and in this case, so then they send it back to you, the swatch, and you approve it. We have trade show for everything, so this is text word. We have trade show for everything. These are some other trade shows for fabrics. Ligne Appel, Denim, Tissus Première, Pitti Filati, Columbia Tech. So all these are for fabrics. But then we also have trade show for fashion, like Who is Next, or Première Class, or Rooms, or Coterie, or Panorama, all around the world. There is if you have access to WGSN, there is a calendar that you can put trade shows in what month, in what city, and it will tell you. So if you're flying, to Berlin, and you want to see if there is something going on, you can put trade shows in Berlin, January, and it tells you, yeah, go to Bread and Butter. Or Capsule, Agenda, they have trade show for kids. So if you're selling clothes for kids, you can go to Playtime or Children's Club, or for accessories, Francal, Accessory Circuit. Yep? Are we fine? So, can we still hear me? So then, we have the street as another source of inspiration or information. When I talk about the street, as I said, for me the street used to be going around and looking at windows. When I was working at Falabella, was basically looking at the shows when I was in Buenos Aires. I didn't fly, I didn't travel to look at the shows. I was looking at the shows online, writing, taking notes. Okay, Valentino showed this, taking notes, determine trends, and then 6 months after coming to New York, because I'm like 6 months ahead, I am behind in time, I can access to come here and see what's going on actually. Okay, what I saw was going to happen. Is it happening? So I was analyzing the shows and then coming to Europe and to New York to see what actually was in the stores. So for me, for a long time, the street was the window. And again, I used to go to Chanel and Dior and to H&M, Topshop, Primark. Yes? She's like, what? Yeah, like everything. For me, it was interesting to see how Primark can have the same on Topshop, but like, it's interesting, the connection. When you are so much working in trends, you can see the same trends in different tiers. It's amazing. So for many years, that was the street for me. From Chanel to flea markets, yes, to anything, or to lower tier shops. But today, the street is this for me. For me, it's what are people wearing. I still look at windows, I do some reports for La Nación of windows, but my main concern is what's happening on the street, what people are wearing. So when we talk about what people are wearing on the street, we cannot not talk about Bill Cunningham. Most of you may know him. He always said the fashion show has always just been on the street. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, but he was the main photographer of street style of the New York Times for many years, since 1930s. So these are just some of his pictures of street style, so you get an idea of when he started with street style. There was a nice exhibition of him in New York a few years ago. So this is his street style. And then he had two main sections in the New York Times. One was called On the Street, and the other one was something at night. So he was shooting on the street, but also he was shooting a lot of events at night. And he used to do this type of reports.
Hello, and this is Bill Cunningham from the Fashion Trenches. And one of the interesting aspects was the popularity and inventiveness that many designers are putting into accessories. So if clothes are becoming just too expensive and in many cases uninteresting because they're so classic. The accessories are where all the fun is. The prominence of sneakers worked.
Anyways, there were a lot of these posts. You can see it in the New York Times on the Thursday section, his pictures, but then all these videos, and it's very interesting. Everybody loved him. He was a little grumpy. I saw him in many fashion weeks, never say hello, always riding his bike, and always with the same blue jacket. Like, he didn't care about fashion. He was there just to take pictures, not to be fashionable himself. Yeah? It's very interesting. There is a movie about him. And then one more contemporary street style photography is Scott Schumann from the Sartorials. So I want you to watch this 7-minute clip where he talks about what is street style from him and where he gets the inspiration. And then we continue.
You know, you never know what it is, what that thing is that draws you to that person. But you just let it happen, you know, and it seems odd, but, you know, it's almost like going out there and letting yourself fall in love a little bit every day, letting yourself be seduced a little bit every day. I grew up playing sports and slowly kind of got into fashion when I was in junior high. You know, I mean, it was a great way to attract girls. It certainly set me apart from all the other kids in a Midwest junior high. Growing up looking at magazines from 7th grade until, you know, now, without specifically trying to, I think you just pick up a visual dialogue, a visual understanding. And so it wasn't really the technical aspect of photography, but how it communicated to me, how it created certain curiosities to a kid in the Midwest who would look at Vogue or look at GQ and think, wow, that is really a different world. I feel very lucky to get to have part of my day leading a visual life. It takes X amount of time every day just to make the blog work, just to get everything going and get all the business of it done. But then the real joy of it is having those 4 or 5 hours a day to go out and just be in the world that you're in, see it, keep your eyes open, and really relate to what you're seeing, react to what you're seeing. The fact of the matter is, you know, I didn't grow up dreaming to be a photographer. I didn't assist for anybody. I just kind of started doing it. So for me, it's so instinctual the way I shoot. The way I do it is just the way I do it. Excuse me, sorry. Do you mind if I just do a fast photograph? Are you just standing just like that?
What's it for?
I do a site called The Sartorialist.
Oh.
Good, 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 good. I don't see 100 images a day that I'd want to take. You know, I see 2 or 3, and so for me it's very easy to be patient and wait for those images because that's just the way I thought it was supposed to be.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I love your site. Sorry, I didn't know who you are.
That's okay.
It's the man behind the camera.
Exactly.
It's always the genius.
It's easier to recognize me looking like that. Thank you very much.
Have a good afternoon.
My lack of knowledge in the beginning really helped and really just made me refine what little I knew to make it work. And, you know, I think if you ask any other person that does a creative thing, you know, they probably go to school and learn all these different things, and then as they get better, it just narrows and narrows. You could ask most chefs, they would need 5 ingredients, 1 pan, and a stick of butter, and they can make the best meal you've ever had. And I think that's really where most photographers would like to get to, is not to have all that other stuff, but be able to create the most beautiful image they can in the most simple way that they can.
Stand really straight like this.
When I look at something, I don't really think, you know, is that fashionable enough? You know, is that of the moment enough? I'm just reacting. the turn of the century, there was a photographer named Lartigue who went out and shot on the street and kind of were documenting people of their time. And today, to us, a lot of those photographs seem so romantic. You know, we look at the old Lartigue photographs and we think, oh, everyone was so beautifully dressed. But if you went and asked somebody in 1910 and showed them that photograph, someone that had a real fashion point of view, and said, you know, how is this woman dressed? She might say great, or she might say horrible. She might say that's so 1905. But we've really lost that thread. We can't really differentiate between what looks right for that moment. Where now, with the blog, I can take a photograph and have it up on the internet and share it with people across the world. People of this moment can comment on how they feel that looks, how that fits in, if it's of the moment. I think will look very interesting 100 years from now. Good. The ability to be able to capture that and how that attitude is going to change over hopefully the next 30 to 40 years that I'll be doing this. Capture something that we've really not been able to capture before. Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. You know, because the internet is the world shrinking, are we all becoming too homogenized? Milan hasn't changed, Paris hasn't changed, New York hasn't changed. So I don't think it's really homogenized anything, but I do think it's given us what I like to call a digital park bench. So many people you meet say, oh, I love to just go people watch, just go sit in the park and watch people. And before you were really limited to the people you could see right there in front of you at your park. Now you can go on the internet and look at a blog like mine or other blogs that are based somewhere else. Really, the whole world's open to you now.
Great. So what I think this is very inspiring, this video, and some of my notes from this video are, he talks about picking up a visual dialogue and a visual understanding. And I feel like, as I said at the beginning, when we work in fashion, we work in a visual environment. It's everything about being visual, and we're captured by visual things. We don't even know what calls our attention, and we're shooting. That's what happened to me at the street style. I don't know, and I see some people shooting at that girl, and I'm like, what are they taking pictures of? But then they might happen the same to them when they see me taking a picture of something. So we all have our own point of view. So he talks about a visual dialogue, a visual understanding. I feel very happy to have part of my day leading a visual life. Again, it's all about the visuals in street style and in everything that we do in fashion, in the creative side. That's why I kill my students. There's one of my students there with mood boards all the time. You have to do mood boards of these. They're like, Madame, again another mood board. Yes. It's very important how to understand how to express your ideas in a visual way in fashion. You never know what it is, what that thing that draws you to that people, to that person. Yes? As I said before, I might be caught my attention by that, and I want to take a picture of those shoes. And then I see someone else, I'm like, what is he doing? Those shoes are so boring. They're boring to me, but they're not boring to them. That's why when I see a lot of people complaining, because in Fashion Week, we're all the time, every season there are like 10 more people. We're like 100 of us traveling to all the cities. That fashion month, February and September, you meet everybody at the airport, you meet everybody at the hotel. We're like 100 or 150 people traveling all the cities. And every time when there is someone new, all the photographers become like, oh, there's someone new. I'm like, there is room for everybody. You shoot for glamour, you have your point of view. You shoot for Elle, you have your point of view. You for One Women Wear Daily, you for Vogue. Don't worry. Just, there is room for everybody. You let yourself fall in love with what you see every day. Again, I think that's the very interesting point. The real job is to be each day 4 to 5 hours in the world you're in, to see it, to keep your eyes open and relate to what you're seeing, react to what you're seeing. Nothing can be planned. That's why I like street style so much. If I was shooting runway, everything was planned. The PR tells me when I have to see it. The PR tells when the lights goes on, when the lights goes off, when the music turns on, and then the creative direction, they plan the whole thing. First model, second model, there is a whole choreography behind it. And then we're shooting. For me, I don't like that. I like to be like, I don't know how every day is going to be. I wake up and I only know my schedule. I know I have to be at 9, at 10 at Chanel, and then Chanel has another show at 11:30, and then I have to go to Balenciaga, and then I have this. I know what I have to do, but I have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe it starts raining. Okay, so all my pictures of that day are going to be with like newspapers on top of the head, and all the shoes ruined, and everybody complaining, and no Ubers, but I didn't know. Or maybe everybody's dressed, when you go to Chanel, most of the people are head to toe Chanel, so you kind of know, but other shows you don't know, and that's what's amazing. Yeah, or maybe there's gonna be, sometimes you don't know the location. Chanel, you know, Grand Palais, that's it. But some shows change location, so you don't know. Valentino has been changing the location. Used to be in Tuileries, now he's in a hotel. So some places you know, okay, oh my God, that's the place where all the cars are like jamming, we're not gonna be able to take pictures. But sometimes you don't know, so you arrive and it's all a surprise. Yeah? So react to what you're saying, and you react. And you have to have that power of reaction. You have a question? Okay. When I look at something, I don't say, is that fashionable enough? I am just reacting. When he took the picture of the guy, of the construction guy, maybe for a person, it's like, what is he shooting? A guy working on construction, yes, but maybe the metallic pants that he was wearing inspire you to design, you know, a pattern for a fabric, or maybe to do an accessory. That's why I started this seminar by all the sources of inspiration. Street is just sun, but you just have to be out there and you're gonna get inspired. The way I shoot is very instinctual. The way I do it is just the way I do it. And for me, it's the same. I am called, in Fashion Week, I am called iPhone Girl. I have a hashtag that is I am iPhone Girl. I'm the only person that travels to all the city of Fashion Week without a camera. I shoot only on an iPhone. And it was very hard for me to start doing this because all the photographers, they have cameras with lenses like this is so small. They were like this, you know? They were like, who are you? Are you just a rich girl traveling around the world? I'm like, no, I do it professionally, but with my phone. I don't need a camera. Of course you get a different, sorry photographers, if you hate it. Of course you have a different camera. Of course you have a different picture with a camera. Of us, you have a different picture with a different lens, of course. Yeah, but my point was like, I was doing social media content. For me, the immediacy was the most important. So for me, it was not a perfect picture. My picture is not, I always say I'm not a photographer. I do street style photography, but my expertise is in trends. And I am not there to take the most perfect picture. I'm there to detect trends. And I need to do it in a fast way so I can create a trend report and be up the same day that we're seeing Chanel, you can see the trend alert in my Instagram. So that's why it's instinctual. He said that the lack of knowledge at the beginning really helped, so that's interesting. So that, I think, is encouraging for you. Just go out there. There is no science, just explore. The best thing to know, if you like something, or if you don't like it, or if you're good at something, or if you're not good at something, if I start doing it. And then the last thing, I really love the concept that he used of the digital park bench. I love Go People Watch. Before you were limited to the people at your park, now the entire world is open up to you. And I think that's amazing. Yeah, we can, by watching, by looking at my Instagram, looking at his Instagram, by looking at, you can get an idea of what's happening in street style. So your bench park, your park bench is so much bigger. There is a whole digital platform that you can access information. So, the street style, the new runway. So if the street style is the new runway, that's what we call this seminar. The street is the new playground. So let's put the main focus on Fashion Week. So if the street is the new playground, this is the playground. Who are the players? So on one hand, we have all these players. We have bloggers, we have editors, we have stylists, buyers, creative directors, influencers, models. They're all arriving to the shows. So on one side of the playground, we have all these people coming to the show. And on the other side of the playground, we have the street style photographers. So this is what the playground looks like. This is what it looks like. This. And I'm not kidding. It looks like a runway. I put the name the street style, the new runway, and it does. She's like walking, like in a theater, like she's like a
Well, I say this is a super jam.
This is a scene always outside Fashion Week, yeah? So people pretending to be on the phone because they, you know, that they know we are there. So we all know what the rules of the game are, yeah? That's why when they get upset when we're taking pictures, I'm like, don't get upset, because this is the game. We help you, you help us, like it's So look at her walking so casual on the street. So, but it is like that. That's why it makes sense to call it the street style is the new runway. So, bloggers, editors, as I said, stylists, all these ones are on one side. Part of this group we have, as we said, Amy Song. We talked about her already. Big influencer, always in street style, super nice to take pictures of. During Paris Fashion Week, BMW has been doing a strategic alliance with a lot of street style photographers. So instead of they arriving with in Uber or taking the metro, they arrive in BMWs. So there is a lot, it's called the Fashion Bride, a lot of models and influencers posing next to the bike, and it's a whole thing only in Paris Fashion Week. Then we see Ana de Russo is one of the big stars, you know, of street style. She's always wearing head to toe the brands. You may like her or not, but she is like a big person when you talk about street style. She, you know, she's the editor-at-large of Vogue Japan. And then in November, she's an influencer. She used to be a model, now she's an influencer. She doesn't have a blog, she's just an influencer. She always emphasizes on that. I don't have a blog, I'm an influencer. She's Argentinian, she's based in Milan. She's there. Then we have Chiara Ferragni from the Blonde Salad. Here we go. Super nice to take pictures. Some of them are super nice to take pictures and some, okay, but in general they're nice. Elena is a buyer. So as you see, this is Paris, this is Milan, this is back in Paris, the same people in the 4 cities. Then we have Gala, that we talk about her from Amlul, remember? This is Fundación Vuitton. This is in New York, outside Carolina Herrera. This is outside Isabel Marant. So the same people in all the shows. Then we have Giovanna Battaglia from W Magazine and from Vogue also. She's usually very all the time with Anna. Then we have Linda Toll, that is another influencer in Amsterdam, but based in Milano as well. So these are just some. And Leandra, that we talk about her in Man Repeller. She has a very unique style. Miroslava from Bureau 24/7. Natasha Goldenberg, another buyer. Pernil. So, what's their role? So, of course, they have their role. If they're stylists, they're there to watch the collections, to look at the collections, so then they can decide what are they going to use in which magazines. If they're buyers, what are they going to purchase, what they're going to purchase. So they have their main role. But also, I put this picture. They're there to dress and to be wearing the collections that the designers give them. So that's how the circus work. They are wearing like Valentino because we're at Valentino and we expect to see Valentino. Yeah? So they're doing their job, they're going to the show for their core of the project, that is their main job that they have, but also to showcase the collections. So that's why we are there and we're taking pictures of them. And so they're late. And what I did here is just, I wanted to make it as easy as possible to explain you what they're wearing. Ana de Russo is one of the main personalities in street style. So she usually is wearing, can I go 10 minutes more? Sorry, 2 seconds. Can you tell the taxi I can go 10 minutes? I want to finish. I need to go to the airport, but I want to. So, Ana de Russo is one of the most important people in street style. So usually, she's wearing the collection that we're going to see in the show. So, I put it here. In February 2017, for example, the show that just happened, we saw Autumn-Winter 17-18. Yes? So that's going to be in the shops in July of this year. But we already seen it in the show, and we already seen Anna. So we usually see her wearing the items, and then we go to the show and we see those items. But that's very unusual. It's not that common to see someone wearing head to toe the same item that we're going to see in the collection. Yes, that's because it's Anna that is one of the main characters in street style. But when we see smaller influencers like Linda Toll, usually they're wearing one season before. So if I went in February to see Autumn Winter 17-18, Linda is going to be wearing Spring Summer 2017 that showed in September, that was in the stores in February. Do you follow? Because I have the fashion calendar okay, but it's, yeah? So what is interesting about these smaller influencers that if you like something, you can go straight and buy it because it's already in the shops. Whereas if you see Anna, you can't. Now the whole thing with the See Now Buy Now changed, but like, let's try to keep it for this seminar with the old calendar. See Now Buy Now, you know, some designers are doing collections that you can buy straight from the runway. What changed the whole fashion calendar. Clear? So on one hand, we have all these creative directors, stylists, buyers. On the other hand, we have the street style photographers. So some of them, Adam Katzindin, you may know him. He's from the US, from Seattle, and he has a blog called Le 21e. He's one of the partners with BMW, and his blog is called Le 21e. Then we have Nabil, he's from France. He has a blog called J'ai perdu ma veste. So they both have different style. Then we have Tommy Ton. He was the main photographer for a few years for Style.com. That's why even though he doesn't shoot for Style.com anymore, he still have access to a lot of shows. A lot of shows, this is very interesting, like Hermes. Well, Hermes this season didn't have it, but usually Hermes has it, Dior, Vuitton. They have what we call in street style courtyard. That is a specific area where you can go, you have to access, you have to ask for access. They send it to your house, the access. It's like an invitation to the show, but courtyard. So you access to a better place. So you're shooting the street, but not on the street where you get run by a car. So it's a specific area. What I'm trying to say, Tom, because he was one of the main photographers of Style.com for many years, he has usually access to courtyard, and it's much better to shoot there. Yes, I shot courtyard in Dior, in Vuitton and Hermes, and it's better. Phil All, remember that I told you about? He shoots from there, as we see the picture in the middle. He has a blog called Street Peeper, but again, he's much more well known for Vogue US. Vogue US is the biggest Vogue, and he shoots for Vogue US. And then the last one I introduced you is Adriano Cisani. He's Italian, and he's very funny. So all his pictures have like a kind of a sense of humor. So all of these photographers, what's their role? As we've seen, the first part of the players, their role was to go to the show, take notes of what's happening, and also be dressed like wearing the collections. What's their role? Their role is to take amazing pictures because they're photographers. So like them, they're looking at lighting, they're looking at composition, they're looking at color, they're adjusting their whatever, I'm not a photographer, lens. So what do I do in Fashion Week? this side of the players. I'm part of this part of the players. I do collaboration with H&M New York and from some designers from Puerto Rico, from Buenos Aires, from France and from London. So I work on the front end. Yes, I'm putting on my Instagram the pictures, but my main thing is being behind. That is the part of the street style photographer without being a photographer. So my main focus is in trends. So what I'm looking at when I'm in fashion weeks are trends, colors. What colors are coming, what fabrics, what prints, what bags, what footwear, what makeup. This is what we call in trends the bubble up. There are two theories when we talk about trends, and it's the trickle down and the bubble up. So the bubble up is what's coming from the street. So that's my main focus, looking at people, what's happening, and connecting the dots between one season and the other one. So my job is to travel. To travel where? To travel mainly to New York, London, Milan, and Paris. When? I travel in February to see winter collections, and in September to see summer. In February, I see winter. What I see in February is winter. It's going to be in the stores in July, August. Yes, so what I saw last February, autumn, winter 17-18, is going to arrive in the stores here in the US and Europe in July, August of this year. When I see summer in September, that's going to arrive in the stores in February, March of the following year. Yeah? So who am I taking pictures of and why? They're mainly, these are all the actors, mainly all the first ones, I'm taking pictures of them because of their looks, what they're wearing. And then the last ones, the models, I'm taking pictures of them for the runways, looks of makeup and hair. The amazing thing, this is what we call models of duty. So the models come out with their clothes, they are super cool, and the hair and makeup from the show. So you can see the hair from Chanel and the makeup from Chanel, but in a very grunge look and with the style of the model. So I think that's super cool. And I started doing that because of a beauty company from Italy that asked me to get, the hair looks. So basically, my methodology is I start traveling. I start with New York. That's the first fashion week. Kick off usually February 7th. And September 7th is on a Thursday, 7th or 8th. So what I do is I start taking pictures. When I'm in New York, I don't know what's going to happen. That's the first city we do, this is the first day, we just start shooting. There is I can't connect any dot because this is the first time I'm looking at these people, I'm looking at these trends. So I start taking pictures. And then every day, I arrive to the hotel or to my apartment and I create these folders. This is my methodology. I do it on a daily basis because I take 50,000 pictures per month. So if I wait until the end, there is no way. I can't. So every day, even though I have nothing, I just have maybe 4 folders. Skirts with a split, denim, fur accessories and culotte. I only saw that today. So I drag the pictures, yes, to those folders. And I do everything on Dropbox because my assistant is based in Buenos Aires. So she's the one that is going to access this and put it into a trend report like the colors, and she's going to do Photoshop and that. Then I go to London. So all these in New York. Then I go to London. And I continue taking pictures, but I already been 1 week in New York, so I already know what's happening. So I can connect the dots. So if I see denim, I'm like, okay, this is going to be in the denim folder there, right? Okay. And this is going to be in the suit folder. So I continue to take pictures. And I do the same. I do more folders. And then I go to Milan. And I continue to take pictures. And I do more folders. Some of the pictures that I took in Milan, of course, are going to go in the pictures, in the folders that I made in New York. Because maybe you see a lot of denim in all the cities. Some trends are across the board. Some trends are from New York, from London. For example, Milan is all about colors. It's all about mix of prints. Paris is more satin, it's more black. Yeah? New York is more sport. So there are some things that are very typical of the city. Because you have those designers, because it's the style of the city. But there are some trends that are across the board. Like the Vetements jean or the Gucci shoes. A few seasons ago, everybody had it in all 4 cities. And then I go to Paris and I continue to take pictures and I make more folders. We need to stop. Can I speak 5 minutes more? I don't care, but I just want to finish 2 seconds. Okay, I go in 2 seconds. How do I process all this information? Until 7. At 7 okay, tell him I'm going now. 3 more minutes. So, how do I process all this information? I have so much to show you. All these pictures, all the folders that I created, I open each of the folders and I create trend alerts, I create magazines, looks in each city, and shoes and bags roundup. Just to make it short, this is what I do. So with all the pictures, I create these trend alerts. Yes? Tied up, white shirts, backwards, high waist. So a lot of trend alerts of what's happening. So I open each of the folders that I show you, and each of the folders is a trend alert. And then I have a magazine, and I show all my pictures. You can get the Paris magazine. So you see all the street style from Paris, all compiled in one magazine. Yeah? And then, I have so much. Okay, and then I do a magazine that is called Roundup of Shoes and Accessories. So I show all the shoes that I've seen in a concept. So creative shoes. These are all the creative shoes. And these are all the full-length boots. You see? So all the shoes and bags, they're grouped within themes. And then I do some videos. So I do also some trend alerts for Instagram that have different layouts than the one for my blog. So this is for the blog and this is for Instagram. You see the difference? Because people like to see a full image in Instagram. So I just make it a different layout. And then I also do what I call the roundup videos. I do the same for beauty, sorry. So what's the color hair, and what's the makeup, and what's the lips. So for every category I do it. And then I do some videos like wrap-ups. So I show in a video that okay, and they're gonna kill me. I have so much. Okay, and then and then Coachella. Also, I did the same with Coachella. I do the same when I'm there. For me, it's like a fashion week. So I'm detecting trends, and I'm determining trends, and I'm doing the same. I'm detecting what's happening, and I do the same wrap-up. Okay, almost the end. Just my little message. Always have with you a notebook, a camera, and just train your eye to look at the world in a different way. Like for me, my inspiration was always Coco Chanel. When I was at her apartment, they told us that the idea of the camellia came from the wallpaper in her apartment, and the cover of the perfume number 5 came from this mirror. So you never know where inspiration is going to come from. That's why I started with the toolkit for inspiration. You just have to be out there. Thank you.